Hi there. I am Matt with K15T, and today we are going to talk about how the Confluence team confluences. And yes, that is a verb now. Maybe not officially, but we're going to go with it. So welcome to the live stream. Hey, Christian. Wow, first to the chat. Good for you. Hey, Chad. Hey, ooh, Kythera? Oh my gosh, what an amazing name. Scott, it's so nice to have you all here. I am Matt. I will be hosting this fine and fancy time with our two special guests from Atlassian. And of course, we have Stefan, who is managing the live chat. That means Stefan will be dropping all sorts of helpful resources here, there, and everywhere. If you have questions throughout the live chat, please, or throughout the live stream, please do us a favor and drop it into the chat. We are here to answer your questions. If you would do #question beforehand, that helps us pick those out, which is fantastic. Yeah. Hey, Andy. Yeah, Mixmaster Stefan. That's true. Oh my God, Stefan, did I forgot your full title. I'm so sorry. Whew. I'm gonna have a rough peer review with Stefan later, I think. Also, if you would hit the like button in YouTube, that would be great. It tells algorithms things. I don't pretend to know, but maybe someday I will. So hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, because we do this on a regular basis. We have live streams coming out our ears. Like we will be doing live streams. I have them planned through the rest of the year, except for next month. So TBD there. Finally, if you have not, we put out a weekly Confluence email newsletter called Your Weekly Dose of Confluence, and it is full of Confluence news, tips, tricks, all new things in Confluence, and then, of course, our opinionated approach on how to use it the very best way. Please subscribe. We actually have a new author who just joined us. Patricia is new on the team, and Patricia and I have been going through the throes of collaboration this last 2 weeks and having a fantastic time putting together a whole bunch of new content that y'all are going to be reading sooner rather than later. So please subscribe to that email. It is so fantastic. All right. Without further ado, I would like to talk a little more about how Confluence has changed. I think we talked about this on the last live stream where we were talking about a lot of the redesign work that's been done in Confluence, but Confluence is no longer the wiki, right? Which I think a lot of us have thought of it as being that for a long time, but Confluence is undergoing a huge change as the way we work as teams are also going through huge change. So why not, I'm mixing idioms right now. There's something about hearing something from the horse's mouth, but then there's also something about not looking at gift horse in the mouth, which is the tooth thing. Whatever the case may be, I would like to welcome the horse himself, Jefferson Tayler. Jefferson, what is your official title? It is not the horse. I know that. Jefferson the horse Tayler.
It could be the horse, but we'll go with head of product for Confluence for now.
Okay, head of products for Confluence. That is fantastic. Also, I would like to invite Aya on as well. Aya, you are a principal product manager of the dark arts. Like what how do I end that title? I don't truly understand.
Wow, I love that title. Jefferson, can we change that to my official title, please? Well, nice to meet everyone. Yeah, I'm a principal PM here on the Confluence team, and I spend a lot of time working with our large customers and getting them to see the value of Confluence.
Fantastic. Today, we are going to talk a little bit here at the beginning. Jefferson's going to cover a bit of the vision of Confluence and sort of where it's going. And buckle up, because you will see some slides, which we don't normally show on this live stream. Calm down. It's okay. It's all right. We are talking about future stuff, and as we know, future stuff requires slides. Jefferson works with enough high-level leaders who they're like, but we're talking about the future. Where are the slides? So we're going to talk about we're going to use some slides for a few minutes, and then we're going to jump into how the Confluence team uses Confluence on the daily, how they do things, what are tips and tricks they're using. Aya has a million things to show us. And then if we have time, we're also going to talk a little bit about content hygiene, which would be really fantastic because everybody in this audience knows how difficult that is to pull off. So without further ado, Jefferson, I believe the floor is yours.
Yeah, so Matt, where I'm going to start is where are we as Confluence going? And I think this is an important topic for us to start with because the fact is where we are going helps explain why we are making certain changes to the product today, why are we developing what we're developing, and as importantly, what are sort of the practices that teams need to be using to get more done within Confluence based on what we are establishing. So where I would probably start is Confluence as the modern workspace. And if you wanted to move to the next slide, essentially for me, what we are aiming to be is the modern collaborative workspace where knowledge becomes impact. Today, we are largely a knowledge base. I think that is very much our roots. We're not moving away from that. The question is, how do we take what today is a very effective store for information? And we know in an AI first world, information and knowledge and trustworthy source of truth type of information is more important than ever before. How do we take that and how do we adapt it for where the digital world is going? And so where I would start is the first of the three investment pillars. The first one is really making Confluence a modern workspace for all teams. And there are a couple of pieces to this that I just want to break down and split out. So the first piece is actually the last on the slide, which is for all teams. Knowledge is only useful if you're not creating knowledge silos. And so what we are very intentionally trying to do is simplify the product, making it easier to use, making it feel alive, and making it have clear use cases that appeal not just to the technical teams, which are our home, they are our bread and butter, but also the business teams who partner with them. And the hope is the outcome that we can drive by bringing those teams together is greater agility, greater shared understanding, everyone operating on the same page when we're working across time zones or we're not all in the office all the time. That is a huge piece of what we're trying to do is bring together and be the home for all teams and that modern workspace that our teams love to use. And so that brings me to our second pillar, which is we want to be the life cycle for all work. If you could go to the next slide. Thank you. So what you've seen in our product investments is a consistent theme. Today, Confluence is the home for knowledge, is the place where final work ends up. Your most polished pages, your final source of truth knowledge. We are making product investments to move earlier and earlier on in the life cycle because ultimately we want to be that seamless continuum where teams start to work and then where they publish their final page. And we've made some very intentional product decisions around that you'll continue to see bear fruit. Product decision one, introduction of live docs. Live docs is seamlessly convertible into pages. We should be very clear that from our perspective, live docs is the place for team level collaboration. Pages is the place for final knowledge-based content. And the two are seamlessly interoperable. And so that enables our customers and our users to start earlier so that it is seamless all the way from the germ of an idea to this is the final thing that we are sharing with the entire organization. Similarly, whiteboards, huge area of investment for us as we think about being the place where you can have visual knowledge with things like diagramming, as well as early brainstorming with things like core ideation. And so maybe the last pillar that I would briefly touch on is essentially this conception of turning knowledge into outcomes. And this is where Atlassian's system of work philosophy really comes into play, right? Because what we're trying to do is create that seamless life cycle from idea, which can happen in whiteboards, to collaboration fleshing out, which can happen in live docs, to final knowledge in pages, and then connecting to the rest of the Atlassian ecosystem. So I'll give you some examples. Starting with ideas in whiteboards and changing that into work in Jira. That helps make sure that teams are always staying in the flow and we're actually making impact with the ideas we're coming up with. Another example of an area where we're investing is meeting notes in Loom. So having that ability for the Loom note taker to join your meetings, have it turn into persistent knowledge in Confluence, and then having them be things that you can then action that happen in Jira. And so for us, the end game here is we want to make sure that knowledge is alive, actionable, we actually drive work out of it. And so I think this is actually the perfect tee up for you, because where we go from here is these are high level pillars. Sounds great. But maybe we should talk about how Atlassian actually puts this into practice. And so I'll turn it over to you to help dive into that.
Come on, everybody loves a good high level pillar. We do, but then it's like, oh yeah.
What do we do with that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just really quick for those of us who have joined the stream, because y'all are filtering in, if you would hit that like button, that helps YouTube know that we're doing stuff. Also, we just launched a poll that you can jump in on and share. How often are you using Confluence? There is one. There is one amount that is absolutely winning out, but I'd love to hear more. So everybody throw your thoughts in there. We'd love to hear from all of you. Also, I'm seeing some great discourse, which I love. If you have questions, throw those questions in. Like, if you're like, okay, Jefferson, tell me why the sidebar changed. Throw that in there as a question and we'll talk about it. Also, Christian, I love your thought on if live docs are for collaboration and pages are for consumption of knowledge. It'd be cool to separate restriction between live docs and the actual page. That's an interesting perspective. I think that's a good way to think of the two. But yeah. All right. Live chat, you seem satisfied for now, but I hope not for long. Please throw in your questions and we will address them. Are you ready to dazzle us all with like how the Confluence team is using Confluence?
Oh yeah, ready to rumble. Well, I'm excited to take some of Jefferson's pillars and bring it to life. So while I sadly can't show you exactly what we're working on, I've replicated some of this so you can actually get a sense of how we get things done around here. And we do, surprise, surprise, a lot of things in Confluence. Everything from ideation to personal notes, meeting notes, group work collaboration, project execution. It all starts in Confluence for us. So you can see my screen here. I'm working on something called Project Nimbus. And typically when we start a project, we create a space specifically for that project, which I can easily do down here. Now, everyone related to the project will put all of their information in here. They have full access. So, whether I'm working with designers, engineers, other product folks, everyone can put their information into this space. I like to keep things clean with lots of folders, as you can tell, but it's really up to you depending on how you want to organize your content, but that would be my little tip. Maybe I'll sprinkle in another tip of I always star the spaces that I frequent so that I can easily find them. So that's definitely one that saves me time.
And if I star something, where is it going to show up? On home,
good question.
I think. Oh, there's a starred menu. I forgot.
There is that shiny starred menu. So that's where I spend a lot of my time. So you can access it through there. But let me go into my PRD or within my PRD folder. PRD standing for Product Requirements Document. And here I'm working with my team You can see that we're following a bit of a template. We actually have a lot of templates that you can use, but you can also create your own custom templates for your teams. But we've started to add a lot of content. Now, I'm going to pause for a second because you may have noticed that the content type that Jefferson was just talking about, live docs, this is a live doc. So again, if you're familiar with Confluence, you might be used to pages and you might be used to that edit button that's up here and you have to update and to publish your changes. When you're in a live doc, that actually, it removes the need to have to do that. And anything that you automatically add in here can be seen for the rest of your team. So if you can see actually Jefferson is in this document with me. So you can see that these live presence avatars. And you can see Jefferson is actually, this is his cursor and he might be writing things. And so it really allows people to feel like they are working together, even though they might not be in the same room. So that's a great little benefit of live docs. So I can see exactly what Jefferson is doing.
This is giving like horror film vibes of like, I think Jefferson is here in the doc with us. Also,
exactly. I'm always looking.
Oh my God, is it? Also, just recently on pages as well, if you're viewing a page, you can also see who is viewing that page. Just great improvements where we're working together and we can just like share these experiences together. I imagine Jefferson is not a live doc lurker, right, Jefferson? You're only there to collaborate, right? You're not just lurking.
I'll let Jefferson answer that.
I'm not normally a lurker. I have too many opinions for that, Matt. So I will always be adding my different opinions to any document that I see.
All right. And we will definitely talk about that leadership review piece because I think that's a really interesting one after this. So we'll definitely get into that part.
Okay. All right. And definitely throw in the live chat if you work with at least one live doc or page lurker who you're just like, why are you in this page right now? You're not contributing anything. Why do I see your name there? Throw that in the chat. I would love to know.
And I do want to call out just while we're talking about live docs and you mentioned pages, Matt, and Jefferson has also said, pages isn't going away. That's still there. And you can easily convert a live doc to a page and vice versa. So I'll just quickly show you how that works. So now I will convert this to a page and now you'll see that in page format. So what you might be used to here with the edit button. But then I can also easily go back to live docs. So again, very easy to convert depending on where you are maybe in your writing content lifecycle, but that's, I just want to make sure we called that out. So you have access to both.
That is fantastic. I literally did this 3 days ago because Patricia and I are working on this huge content project and we've been working in pages and I keep hitting like edit, go change some things, publish. And then and we've been doing this, and I was like, wait a minute, there's a solution for this exact use case.
Yes.
I was curious, are you finding on the Confluence team that teams that maybe started something in pages, but then they've like realized like, oh, we have live docs now? Are they converting to a live doc to like do that really quick collaborative work?
Absolutely. And if they haven't, sometimes I just go and convert it for them. And then they go, whoa, that was so easy. What did you just do? So yeah, it makes everyone's lives a lot easier when you're doing that back and forth collaboration.
Yes. Yeah. Also pro tip, don't convert things into blog posts. That's different and you can't undo it.
That's a different story.
I haven't done that from personal experience, but just for a friend told me. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
All right, so maybe we can talk a little bit about the editing and writing piece. Now, I think I'm a good writer, but it can always be better. So I like to use some of the AI capabilities that we have. So with just one click, I can easily improve my writing. I can further refine it. I can change the tone to be more professional or more casual. Summarizing, writing, making shorter, longer, even translating. So this is great if you're working with folks that maybe you're not speaking the same language. There's a lot of AI capabilities that you can do while you're in the flow of your writing. So I'd love to hear in the chat if you've got other capabilities that you'd love to see from us. Please share. But it's just really easy that I can refine my writing with just a click. And then from a formatting perspective, you can see there's some formatting happening on this page. I love to use tables and headers. If you have ever used the command, what we call the command palette, so if I do a backslash here, you can actually see there are so many options to help you structure and format your writing. Maybe I'll call out my favorite one, which is actually the info panel that you see here, but I can, the other great thing is I can, if I know what I'm looking for, I can actually type in backslash info panel, and then I will say, pay attention here. And these are ways that you can get people's eyes to read certain things, maybe depending where you are on the page. But I find these little formatting tips and tricks really helpful. And I think Jefferson may also have one of his favorite formatting tips here while he also writes quite a few Confluence pages.
I do. For me, I really love this layout functionality. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to drag and drop things in. And what I like about that is it allows you to really just compare things side by side. So you can directly see across the options we have, here are the must-haves, nice-to-haves, not in scope. So I can just directly compare one-to-one. What are the criteria we should look at and think about when we're thinking about these options? And this can be 2, 3, 4, 5 columns across, to the point where you're just directly able to see in a single view all of the things that you need to be considering as you're making a decision or thinking through all the context. Whatever the case is, it just lets you see all those things together. Again, with drag and drop, which we have made a ton of improvements to, and it's one of my absolute favorite features to use in combination with this one.
Yeah, so lots of great formatting tips and tricks, and we could probably just do a whole nother session on that. But
that would be amazing.
We can do that, Matt. But okay, maybe just to share a little. Oh, go ahead.
Well, before we move on, the live chat has spoken, and we have a few questions. The JT Ammon, wow, is wondering about what is the you mentioned on the Confluence team, you create a new space for each project. What does that look like when you scale that? Like, and just like speaking of enterprise, does it become challenging to have that many spaces? Do you have a strategy for archival? Like, how does that work for y'all?
Yeah, Jefferson, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sounds good. So I would say different teams have different practices with regard to this. For us, the space is really important, in particular when we are dealing with confidential information. So I'll give the example of our M&A team as a really good one. They will have something that looks exactly like this, Project Nimbus, as a code name or a code word. And the reason why this separate space is really important is it allows them to control access at the root level. They don't have to worry about permissions on an individual page or anything like that. And what they will end up doing typically is after a project is done, they will either get rid of the space, or if it is still useful, they will simply redirect people to other spaces using the space overview as the single place where people can, when they first come into the space, understand exactly what it's about, if it's a time-bound project or not. And Atlassian generally, I would say, doesn't have huge issues with that. The one nuance there is there's persistent spaces, which I would say represent teams, and then what I would call maybe temporal spaces that represent projects that require a large amount of content stakeholder collaboration, such that it really does actually make sense to set up a space for that individual project. Generally, we tend to clean those up after the fact if the content is no longer useful, relevant to our organization. If it is still relevant to our organization, we would typically leave it. And that's why we try to just very clearly separate out spaces that are about teams work, which I would say should exist forever, at least as long as that team exists, and spaces that are point in time projects. Again, you might think of an M&A. After an M&A project doesn't go through, we probably don't need all that content anymore. And so we're free to just get rid of the space in the spirit of maintaining the hygiene for our entire site.
Love that. Yeah, those sorts of strategies are so important, especially the decision between, do you delete it or do you archive it? Because sometimes truly, if something's very time bound and it will not be valuable after a certain point, delete it. Just don't even keep that thing, especially if it's like, oh, well, this is the old version of it. We've created a new version of it. You don't want that cluttering up search results. You don't want any potential for Rovo to go out and be like, oh, hey, here's some out-of-date information. This looks yummy. Delete that stuff. Tammy is curious. They've experienced some of the macros in Confluence that have been deprecated recently. That's actually impacting Tammy's team, and that is a challenge for them. Curious, what is your strategy when looking at features like old elements and macros? How do you decide to deprecate things? And, is that going to continue to be a thing you do? Change is scary and also creates headaches for admins?
Yes. And I think the piece that I want to acknowledge is that any change or anytime we deprecate something, it ultimately has an impact on our admins who are very, very important to us. So that's the place where I'd start. How do we decide when to deprecate something? Generally, it is impossible for the team to scale and make every single macro that has ever been created in Confluence awesome. And our general goal is whatever folks are using needs to be awesome. Either it is now or it will get there over time. And so ultimately, what we are trying to do as we deprecate macros is a couple things. One, is it highly used? So if it is highly used, we will make it better. We will not deprecate it. Two, is there a better alternative? That is a really, really important one, because the way that Confluence has grown up, we've added a lot of macros over time. As a result, there are a bunch of macros with actually overlapping purposes. And so we would rather direct folks to the right macro that better accomplishes their use case rather than the old macro, which perhaps no longer does. What we've tried to do is be very thoughtful about that. And so again, those are kind of the two dimensions are, one, is it highly used? Two, is there a better alternative out there? And if the answer is no to the first and yes to the second, then generally we will deprecate it. If the answer is, the reverse on either one, generally we won't. That's sort of our principles view.
I think it's such a unique, it's such a real question, Tammy. And I think one thing that in my admin days, I'm always like, but why didn't they make a migration path? Why doesn't it just automatically switch to another thing? And the thing is, the more PMs I talk to on the Confluence team and on other product teams, it's just not that simple. Like migration path that works for your team and the way you're using these macros and elements doesn't work for another. And so that can be so frustrating. I know Angie, for example, in the chat has a question about moving from the legacy editor to the new editor. And some of the things move over and some of them don't. And it's kind of a bummer. But it's hard to think about everyone's use case. And what you don't want to do is have something automatic that just wipes away everybody's everything. So finding that balance is, I'm sure, a very, very difficult part of the product journey, as it is a difficult part of the journey for those of us who are users. I have definitely moved from old stuff to new stuff many times in many different tools. And it's frustrating at the time, for sure. It's like, oh, great, another project for me to do. But ultimately, you do get to a better place. I have been through that list of macros that have been deprecated. There was one where I was like, oh, I kind of use that one. But for the most part, yes, I can see like, okay, yes, I see why we don't need this anymore. I see why we don't need this anymore. Or but the cheese macro, what? Rest in peace, cheese macro. What a thing. Okay. That's all the questions we have. Okay, well, we have more questions, but let's hear a little bit more from you, Aya. We'd love some more tips, and then we'll dig into some more questions.
Cool. Sounds like a plan. All right. So maybe I'll talk a little bit about our messy thinking. You know, sometimes thinking gets a little bit more crazy and you need a different space to work. And that's where I like to get into a Confluence whiteboard. So you can easily create a whiteboard from here or from the create button up here. But I've created a whiteboard for my team, and we've actually already been working on it here. And this is what I really love about Confluence whiteboards. I have everything again in one location, and I can collaborate and brainstorm right within the same space. So the team is working on, hey, we're looking at the must-haves, the nice-to-haves, and out-of-scope pieces of this project. And now we need to get into like, how do we double down on things and how do we work through all of these stickies? And this is where I think the magic happens of how we can take a whiteboard and make it actually actionable. This is where I get a little bit giddy, so please excuse my excitement. But typically, we do an exercise of putting similar stickies together into themes. I'm sure you've all had to do something very similar, and that takes quite a bit of time, and usually during like a post-brainstorming session of doing that. However, now with our AI capabilities here, I can just easily group related stickies into themes. Again, massive time saver. I'm going to keep these. Massive time saver, and I can do this with one click while my team is still on the call, and we can think through like, hey, does this make sense, and where do we want to focus? So I think that's just a pretty amazing capability to just call out, and we use it quite a bit on the team. But are we ready to take it to the next level? Now,
I wish I had a sound effect right now. Like,
I know, I wish I had one too. Like, I need like a foghorn or something. Yeah, exactly. Next time, Matt, can you get that ready for me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. But you know, how amazing would it be if you could take this sticky and turn it into a Jira work item right from this whiteboard, which now you can do with just a click. So what we do is if there's a sticky that we really want to now take action on, we can now add it to the project Nimbus Jira project here. I'm going to make it a task, and I'm going to be able to create that automatically. So boom, there's that ticket for you. Again, didn't have to leave the whiteboard. So, and maybe just to show off a little bit more, I can create 4 or 10 Jira tickets in one go. So again, another great way to just turn these little stickies into actual action work items for Jira. Sorry, maybe you wanted to add
4s and 10s of Jira issues here, or Jira work items, exactly. I should say. I think one of the fantastic things is that it's removing the sticky. Like, it's not like, oh, there's a sticky and a Jira work item here. It's just the work item, which is like, thank God we are not duplicating information. We've done away we've done away with one. Thank God. This is so fast.
So yeah, I wanted to just prove it to you that this is actually happening in the background. So here is my Jira board, my Jira project, and you can see all of those tickets just automatically got added here. So that's just, again, happening in the background. So I can stay in the flow of my brainstorm with my team and having that being made invisibly.
And I'm curious, so if I'm working on the project in Jira, you know, a month later, and I pick up a work item, and I'm like, where did this work item come from? Am I going to see a link on that work item to where it, the original source of knowledge?
That's right. So yeah, so it'll be connected to that whiteboard. Yeah, you set me right up. Thank you.
God, that was just a spike, and so good. All right, we have a couple of questions, and speaking of being giddy, Andre wants to know: is there a way to prompt Atlassian AI, Rovo, just with a keyboard shortcut rather than having to go up and hit that chat button? Can I just, as I'm grooving along on a live doc or whatever, just invoke AI? Is that a possibility?
Ooh, like a short or like a shortcut, like here, let's see. You mean like when I do AI like this?
/AI. Boom.
Yeah,
There it is. That is fantastic. And you
backslash
have,
AI.
that is full on Rovo you're working with right there in the
Yeah,
page,
so I can,
Andre.
right, I can add in, correct.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm doing a couple of rapid fire questions here. Really quick. There was at least a limit on the number of people who could live edit a page. Unsure what that is. Can more than like 20 people live edit a live doc? Can I bring 5,000 of my friends into a live doc and jam? That sounds horrible, but can I?
Jefferson, you want to take that
Uh,
one?
yeah, I'll take that one. So it used to be, you're exactly right. There was a limit of 20 concurrent editors. This is now much higher. It's about 100 now, and it's getting much higher. What I would say though is once you start to stretch the upper bound, chances are there are not 100 people actually collaborating on the same document. I'm just gonna take a wild bet there. And when that's the case, that's when we say, well, Pages is really that at scale way to communicate information. Live Docs is really meant more for that simultaneous collaboration use case. And so for that use case, again, I have showed you very easy, convert to Page. At the same time, though, we are going to continue raising that limit.
All right. I would challenge anyone, try bringing 20 people into a live doc and have them work at the same time. And you tell me that you want more. Okay. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say it now. It's like you can add 5,000 elements to a whiteboard. Do it. Do it. I dare you. You will not like it. I mean, it will work, but you'll just be like, what am I doing here? So thank you for the limit pushing. Liz Tanner speaks wisdom. Aya and Jefferson, we would really love a more direct communication route for changes like, features being, sunset and things like that. The community articles are great, but we would love, especially larger enterprises, there is definitely still this feeling of like, oh, my God. I know I talked with a few Jira admins that totally got blindsided by the UI redesign, for example. So that's definitely like, put that in your pocket. There continues to be this feeling of like, what? Where did that come from? Not necessarily stop making changes. We trust that you're doing that for a reason, but let us in on those in one consistent way. I don't know if, that's in the admin area. There's a lot of different ways you could do it, but thank you for bringing that up, Liz. I think that's really important. Go ahead.
I think that's a great point, Matt. If I could just briefly address it, I think Atlassian can do better here. So I'll be the first to say that. What I would say is for any major change, when there is a community article and there are comments on that, I will personally read every single one of those, even if it's a member of my team responding. And so, whether or not it's visible to you, we do read those. So that's point number one. Point number two is if you're a large enterprise and you have strong feedback, feel free to work through your account team. Your account team has the name of me, has the name of Aya, and we're happy to talk to our customers anytime. We love it. Best part of our job. The third thing I'd say, Matt, we are trying to move towards a little bit more of measured rollout. So in addition to things like release tracks, enabling customers to try it out, turn it on early, turn it off, and go from there. So no doubt more to do, but that's broadly how we were thinking about how we do some of that.
Sorry, my mute toggle is not toggling. Oh God, I bet I looked great though. Thank you for bringing that up, Liz. We will continue to improve and grow as Atlassian does. Going to cloud, going to enterprise, like these are, you would think it'd be so simple, but it's not Jefferson's first rodeo. It's not Aya's first rodeo. I know, I stalked their LinkedIn pages. Yeah, this stuff is tricky. Keep bringing this stuff up. Aya, we have a question. Is there going to be the ability to create a JSM work item from a whiteboard in the future? Is that a thing y'all are thinking about?
That's a very good question. I think we will take that and think through it.
It's not currently roadmapped, but I think it's a good provocation. And we're always, Atlassian overall is moving towards tighter, interconnected apps. And I expect there to be further and further integrations with JSM in the future.
All right. Aya, do you have some more for us?
Yes, I have my next mind-boggling moment for you.
Right.
So let me chat through let me chat through smart sections. So
oh my God, I love them.
Smart sections, I know, aren't they the best? So smart sections is what you see this box here. You can easily access it right here. But we built smart sections so you can actually take your planning and execution to a step further by helping your team add more information to that Jira ticket that you just built from your sticky into that work item. So when I build out a smart section, I can edit the action and I can say what I want it to do. So for example, here it says when the task that I'm going to put into the smart section is added to it, it'll add the start date for June 1st. So that'll add an additional field to the ticket so that the start date will be June 1st. So now when I add this ticket into here, it'll say smart section actions successfully applied. And then let me just take another one. I made this start date just so you could see it. I put this start date for July. And this one, when I put it in here, it'll say smart section action successfully applied. Now, these tickets have additional fields that say that this work will begin in June and July. So that's just, again, another way to keep adding information to your tickets or work items as you are working live in your brainstorming session. And to take that a step further, I can also link tickets together. So if, for example, one ticket blocks another ticket, and when I hit link, now that's also going to show up in your Jira board. So let me just prove this out for you. I need to remember which tickets I just changed. So feedback and user research.
I love that you're here to prove that this stuff works the way you just said it does.
I am.
The scientific method is being used here. I don't know if y'all knew this was an academic live stream, but it is. We will charge a fortune for the final publishing. Yeah.
That's right. So you can see that all that work that we were doing on that whiteboard is getting into Jira here. And again, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything here in the board itself. So you can see that it's connected to the whiteboard, that this ticket is actually blocked by the one that I connected it to. And then you can see that start date is in July. So again, great way to stay within your whiteboard, yet make it very executionable.
This is so wonderful for people like me. I used to be a scrum master and I would spend hours weeping after meetings because I would do all of this stuff manually, and you almost always forget, this one has this relationship to another, and you just forget it because come on. Yeah. You just forget this stuff. Just so everyone knows, smart sections and the ability to create the links between Jira work items is part of Confluence Premium. That is a premium feature, as far as I know. Unless y'all are giving us something amazing in standard, we would love that. Speaking of, a question that we have that I think is very interesting. Is Rovo coming to Confluence standard? Because we're actually, some folks are experiencing their team members are favoring Google Workspace products because Gemini is just available to the lower pay tiers or even the free tiers to some extent. What are the plans there to bring Rovo to everybody who's using Confluence?
So there are Atlassian announcements to come that I can't quite get into, but I'll say at a high level, I think folks will be excited by our future plans with Rovo. And in general, the goal is AI is built into the fabric of how everyone uses our products. So I don't want to spoil any future Atlassian announcements, but more to come.
All right. We would love for you to spoil those announcements. You won't spoil things for us, Jefferson. It's just for the person who's going to make the announcement. But I get it. I understand. Yeah. And no one's supposed to make investments based on the spoilers that Jefferson drops here today. I should probably say that.
Exactly.
Okay. Such a good question. Thank you for dropping that in, y'all. I like seeing Aya and Jefferson sweat just ever so slightly. One other question from Aaron about request types in whiteboards. I don't exactly know what that means, Aaron. Is that in reference to JSN? Aaron, drop some more info in the chat so we can answer that question, because I think it's really cool. Another question, you mentioned Loom when talking about the Atlassian ecosystem, but isn't Loom a paid add-on, like even for Cloud Enterprise, in which case I don't think it should count as part of the base workflow?
Yeah, I think it's important to, hopefully all folks saw our announcement of Teamwork Collection. I think Teamwork Collection is very much Atlassian's viewpoint on the future of how teams should be collaborating and what is the base layer, if you will, of collaboration. And so, as a reminder, what is in Teamwork Collection? Jira, Confluence, Loom, and Rovo. So across those four, as folks move more and more to Teamwork Collection as being the advised or preferred way to buy the collaboration suite from Atlassian, Loom is absolutely a part of the base workflow. And honestly, if you were to ask me, I think asynchronous video has completely transformed the way that Atlassian collaborates internally, because what it allows us to do is work across time zones, not coordinate calendars, save meetings. It is unbelievable for fueling collaboration. Of course, it is optional, but it is a really important mechanism to transform the way that you collaborate and the way that you share knowledge, because not all knowledge is written. A lot of it is spoken, and video is a really important mechanism to communicate that.
Yeah, I could go on at length about how I think Loom is an absolutely essential part for any team using Confluence for accessibility reasons, for knowledge sharing reasons, for knowledge transformation reasons. Could go on, cannot, because we only have 12 minutes left. So y'all, if you have a snack, which I have this one that I took from an airline. I mean, they gave it to me. I'm realizing it's like ground into dust, I think, at this point, so it might not be enjoyable. All right, we've got some coffee here from Jefferson. Aya, did you remember to get a snack?
No, sadly, I just have some water.
All right. Well, all right. That's a very healthy snack. That's part of a balanced breakfast. Yeah, so if y'all have a snack, it's time to break it out. Aaron clarified that, thank you, Aaron. Request types are, in fact, part of creating JSM requests, which is part of what would be needed to add, for the team would need to add that to whiteboards in order to do that. All right, Aya, we have like 7-ish minutes for further mind-blowing stuff. So I'll hand
it's so
it back
hard
to you.
Choose now.
It is.
It's so hard
right?
to choose now,
It
Matt.
sucks. It really sucks.
Okay, let me do a couple things, and I also want to share with how we go from working together, but then into a little bit of the leadership review piece, since we have Jefferson here with us. So if I were to go back to my document here, I'm going to take that Jira board and actually, I'm going to move this out. I'm actually going to just paste it into, oh, why didn't that work? That should turn into, I want to embed that. So it's a smart link. that I can actually embed my Jira board into my document, my live doc here. And this allows me, again, to not have to context switch between going to my Jira board and going into this doc. And it allows me to do things. So I can move tickets. I can click into these pieces to make sure I'm keeping track, and I can change things. So it's the beauty of these smart links is that it's this two-way window, and not allowing me to have to go back and forth between different windows, and I don't have to disrupt my flow. So this is an example of like a within the Atlassian suite, but you can also do it with third-party links as well. So like if our design team is working on a Figma file, we can easily add that directly into our content tree just by adding this smart link here. And now I can easily see that Figma file again while I'm working within this project. So another great little tip. Okay, so going back to this live doc, let's imagine that I'm ready to get Jefferson's feedback. I'm going to go ahead and actually convert this to a page because we're kind of in that next step. You can also notice I've added this status of saying that it's ready to review. And, usually Jefferson is not on the line with me. So Jefferson, no real-time feedback here, but let's imagine that I'm ready to like share this with him.
Yeah, Jefferson's like, I'm not a lurker, but I'm seeing it. I'm just seeing it.
He's actually been through this whole process with me since the beginning. But I can easily add Jefferson to this, and he will get alerted that I have shared this document with him. This is our new share dialogue. You can see that we've pulled a couple pieces together so that you can add folks, include what sort of access you want to give them, and then I can go ahead and share that with Jefferson. So now he would have it on his side. So maybe we can talk a little bit about how we as the Confluence product team review and do that process. We don't create separate decks. We don't create presentations for internal reviews. We do everything here in Confluence. And maybe Jefferson, you can share 2 cents on this, and I can kind of walk through as you talk, like how you've commented on my page here.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to Confluence and written content is often the best way to force clarity of thinking on decisions and exactly what we mean. Like, just because of the format and the medium, it is very, very hard to communicate nuance and detail that you need around rigor of thinking inside a slide deck format. Similarly, it is very hard for leaders to truly think about and absorb, weighty decisions or detailed, gnarly product questions as they're being presented to live in the meeting. And oftentimes, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? If you're asking people for a live reaction, you're not going to get the best possible response you could. And so most of the time, best practice for us is I would send this to me in advance. I would look at it. I would think about it. I would internalize it. And in general, the way that I do that is I would for sure use inline comments. But a lot of times there are broader questions that I have or broader thoughts that I have that don't quite fit neatly in line. And so what I will often do is something like this Loom message here, where I can just talk, I can point to stuff on the page, and I just drop that as a comment. And what is especially convenient for me about the way that I do that is you'll see there's a handy dandy Loom button at the bottom. So I write in context, just say record Loom. And then what I do is I talk through my thoughts that are sort of comprehensive for the team, again, pointing to different pieces. I might even go to a different document and say, I want to pull this piece in. I want to pull that piece in. I might go to an external website. And that allows me to pull together all my thoughts, all my information, but then it doesn't get lost. It's right there in the comment for the team to see. It is a much richer way to provide feedback and thoughts than just text. And that's one of my favorite ways to use Loom in collaboration with Confluence. Listen, there's no right way, but I will say my very opinionated take is for issues of gnarly strategy, detailed experiences, slides just don't allow for the depth of thinking. For me, slides do have their place. Slides are great for one-to-many broadcast communication. That is awesome. For detailed dialogue and back and forth, slides ain't it, as you said.
Slides ain't it. All right, y'all. I have one more question here, which I really think is fantastic from Tammy. Do y'all have any plans on improving the history on? I mean, I would love to see it on Pages and Live Docs, so you can track the actual changes made by individuals. Also, I think of the ability to, rather than just add a comment on text, suggest changes would be brilliant. That's available in other like word editors, which is a phenomenal feature. Is there any work or consideration on improving that ability to see who exactly did what?
Yes. So in general, I can't yet share hard dates because we're still in the midst of our year ahead planning. For those who don't know, Atlassian's fiscal year starts in July. So we're right now in the midst of planning out exactly what we'll do when. But broadly speaking, yes, Matt, both of these pieces need to get better. So one is suggested changes. The nuance there is what we're trying to think of is in an AI first world, you might have suggested changes from your co-author. You also might have suggested changes from agents that you work with in your instance.
Oof,
and
that's cool.
We need to think through exactly how those two play together so that you still have control as the human and owner of the content, but there is that increased ability to drive that kind of collaboration. Version history, similarly, particularly for live docs, it's an area where I'll be the first to acknowledge we need to do more and we need to get better. And we're thinking very much of the enterprise grade capabilities there for how do we allow better structured workflows around information approvals, things like that. Very much on our radar, more to come in the coming months.
Oh my God. I would love to have to write something and then have an agent drop, a content quality agent be like, hey, so we don't use this term, or I would get rid of this M dash because you can't use those anymore because AI uses M dashes and now you seem like you're a robot. To which I'm like, thanks a lot, ChatGPT. I finally learned about the different dashes and now I can't use them because people think I'm fake. I think that would be phenomenal to have that AI teammate collaboration right there. And then ultimately, you're still making the decisions like, oh, great idea. Or like, this was a choice of style rather than function, right? Like you still have that ultimate creative decision, which is part of collaboration, which is part of creation. It's the pain, it's the beauty of it. Oof, that sounds amazing. Such a great question, Tammy. Thank you so much. Y'all, I have to wrap this up, which I do not love for us because I feel like we could keep going. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. This was fantastic. Aya, thank you so much for all the tips and tricks. I feel like we should just have you on again and we should just jam on some things and just have people from the audience just throw the most difficult things at us and just be like, okay, well, let's see what we can do.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much for joining us, Aya. This has been really fantastic.
Thank you.
And
Thanks
Jefferson,
so
of course, thank you for taking the difficult questions. Thanks for painting a picture for us. And thank you for, giving us some things to be excited about. Just, know that we will press you on dates in the future. We'll be like, there's somebody right now creating a spreadsheet where they're like, Jefferson Tayler said on this day at this time that they were working on this thing, and now it's been a month. What's going on, Jefferson? So know that we will be lurking, Jefferson. We'll be lurking.
As you should. I would expect nothing less from our customers who I love. Push us to make Confluence the best it possibly can be. That's part of what I love about our customers.
Fantastic. Y'all, maybe I'm sorry that I referred to us all as lurkers. Maybe I'm not. Thank you so much for joining today as we looked at a few of the ways the Confluence team confluences as your teams, no matter what they do, are getting into Confluence. There is a lot to learn. Luckily, Confluence is changing as our teams change. If you have questions on how you can use Confluence better, or just how to keep up with the Confluence news, like I mentioned before, please subscribe to our weekly dose of Confluence email newsletter. We are just putting the latest and greatest in there. It will arrive in your inbox, typically on Fridays. We're trying to keep up with that because the news is rocking and rolling. Also, subscribe here. You can also check out our Confluence Collaboration Hub, which is a site full of written Confluence best practices, not just what it can do, but how to use it in the very best way possible, no matter what type of team you work on, because Confluence is for every team. So grab some of that content, like and subscribe. We will be on this live stream next month, and continue to explore with us as we pursue using Confluence to share what you do best. Bye.